I was born lucky. A psychic told my adoptive parents that my fate was tied to great wealth. So at 3 years old, I was taken from the orphanage and delivered to the Henry family. Back then, the Henrys were just entering high society. They treated me as their lucky charm, spoiling me endlessly. Over the next 15 years, their fortune soared, making them one of New York's most powerful families. Raised as their charm, I grew fearless and sharp-tongued, with a famously bad attitude. Then my biological parents, the Van Sass, found me. They were modestly rich compared to the Hendrys, but hey, free inheritance. I reluctantly agreed to visit. When I arrived, no one greeted me. The whole family was crowded around a crying girl, the one who had taken my place. Stella, don't cry, her mother soothed. No one can replace you. You'll always be our most precious daughter. I roll my eyes. God, this is annoying. That whining is worse than nails on a chalkboard. My words fell into sudden silence. Every head whipped around to stare at me in disbelief. My supposed older brother, Ethan, stormed over, jabbing a finger in my face. Who do you think you were talking to Stella like that? He snarled. Did your dirt poor family not teach you any respect? Huh? Dirt poor. The Hendrys could buy and sell the Vances' entire pathetic fortune and the time it takes to make a phone call, but I couldn't be bothered to explain that. I let out a cold, dismissive laugh. No respect. I wonder why that is, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Maybe it's because she stole the family that was supposed to teach me. I pointed a finger at Stella, and the little thief has the audacity to stand there crying. What is this? The classic villain plays the victim. Routine. Ethan's bravado crumbled. He was clearly out of his league. His face turned beet red as he stammered. You. I cut him off. Bored. Spit it out. If you have a stutter, see a doctor. If you're just stupid, try reading a book. Either way, stop wasting my time. Defeated, Ethan stood there, seething, breathless, his face mottled purple. Right on. Cue. Stella drifted closer, her face a perfect mask of wronged innocence. I'm so sorry, sister, she whispered, eyes welling up. It's all my fault. I'm the one who stole your life. Please don't blame Mom, Dad, or Ethan. Take it all out on me. The classic damsel in distress act. Zero originality. I had no intention of playing along. I straightened up. Look, I'm tired. Just have someone show me to my room. You all can continue your little melodrama without me. Mr. Vance let out an indignant huff, but still motioned for the butler to escort me. During the tour, before I could even say a word, Stella started again. Sister, you should take my room, she declared, pushing open her bedroom door with a grand, magnanimous gesture. It should have been yours all along. The moment the door opened, Ethan lunged forward to block the entrance, his face etched with pain. Stella, don't do this to yourself, he pleaded. She's a charity case from the sticks. A storage closet would be too good for her. She has no right to your room. Mrs. Vance, to her credit, still had a sliver of conscience. She shot Ethan a glare before turning to me. Keeling, you can choose any of the other rooms in the house, she said gently. But Stella is used to this one. Please don't fight her for it. All right. I was honestly speechless. Had I said a single word about wanting Stella's room? Was it really that special? My gaze drifted past Ethan's obstructive frame to peek inside. Two words came to mind. That's it. Even Lucas, my dog back at the Hendry estate, had a bigger room. I rolled my eyes and walked away, pointing to a much larger room down the hall. I'll take this one. Ethan's voice cracked. Are you insane? That's Mom and Dad's room. I strolled in. Anyway, then turned to Mr. and Mrs. Vance with a bright smile. Mother just said I could pick any room as long as it wasn't Stella's. You're not going back. On your word, are you? Mrs. Vance faltered, but finally nodded. Great. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to rest. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I slammed the door shut, leaving the dumbfounded Vance family in the hallway. Finally, peace and quiet. I snapped a picture of the room and sent it to Ben Prescott. My life is so hard. I'm living in a place worse than Lucas's doghouse. Ben was my fiancé. In New York's elite circles, few families matched the Hendrys. The Prescotts were one of them. Come home, baby, Ben texted back. The Vance's entire net worth wouldn't even cover your handbag budget. If you're short on cash, I'll have my assistant transfer you some more company shares. I smiled and typed back. I don't just want your shares. I want the Vance family fortune, too. The second I hit send, my door swung open. It was Stella. The meek, gentle facade was gone, replaced by smug superiority. She tossed an invitation at me. This is for the Prescott's birthday gala. Mom and Dad said, I have to bring you. I picked it up. Nathan Prescott's birthday. Ben's younger brother. Reckless, hedonistic, and nothing like him. Seeing my silence, Stella smirked. The Prescotts are top-tier New York society. Not just anyone can get close to them. But I'm Nathan's girlfriend, so, of course, I got an invitation. Girlfriend? That was news. Nathan had plenty of bedmates, but never a girlfriend. Before I could reply, she snatched the invitation back and ripped it to shreds. A malicious smile curved her lips as the paper fluttered around us like confetti. Then she threw herself to the floor and wailed. Sister, I know. You're angry, but you can't just rip up my invitation. I had to hand it to her. The girl was committed. As expected, her cries brought the family running. Stella squeezed out a few more tears. Mom, Dad, Ethan, don't blame her. She sobbed. It was my fault. She didn't mean to push me. She just wanted to go to the Prescott Gale alone, so she destroyed my invitation. Ethan, ever the loyal idiot, turned on me. You're shameless. We wouldn't even have an invitation if it weren't for Stella. You wanted to go alone so you could steal her boyfriend, didn't you? If I tried to seduce Nathan, Ben would probably break all 3 of his legs. Still, my silence was taken as guilt. Mr. Vance scowled. Your mother and I wanted to give you a chance to see how the other half lives, and this is how you repay us. How dare you destroy a Prescott invitation and attack your sister butler? Time for some family discipline. A moment later, the butler entered holding a long, thin whip. The second he swung it, I caught it midair, yanked it from his grasp, and kicked his knee. He crumpled to the floor, groaning. I pointed the whip toward a small camera on the bookshelf. You probably didn't notice, but I installed a little security camera when I came in, I said with a sweet smile. Didn't expect to use it so soon. Let's all watch and see who really ripped the invitation. As the footage played, Stella's face grew paler and paler. The rest of the family shifted from anger to confusion to embarrassment. Realizing she was caught, Stella dropped to her knees, clutching my legs. I'm so sorry, sister. I was just scared of losing Mom, Dad, and Ethan. It was a moment of weakness. Please hit me. Punish me. Tears streamed down her cheeks as the Vance's resolve began to soften, but I wasn't one of them. I grabbed a glass tumbler from the nightstand and smashed it over her head. The glass shattered, blood trickling down her forehead. You're the one who asked me to hit you, I said calmly. The others snapped out of it. Ethan scooped her up and bolted. To the hospital? We need to get her to a hospital. Mister. Vance glared at me. How could you be so violent? What if you scarred her face? How is she supposed to attend the Prescott Gala now? So that's what this was about. Not Stella, his social ladder. What's wrong? I asked lightly. Worried your plan to sell your daughter to a rich family will fail if she's got a scar? His face turned crimson. Insolence. You'll stay here and reflect on what you've done. You're forbidden from attending the gala. I laughed. An empty threat from a powerless man. I'd had my invitation long before Stella ever did. Ben had delivered it, personally asking me to attend and announce our wedding date that night. Ben, are you serious? I teased. It's your brother's birthday. You're going to announce our wedding? That's kind of stealing his thunder, don't you think? It will be an honor for him, Ben replied, perfectly serious. I want the entire world to know you're my wife. On the night of the gala, the Vances left early. I slipped back to the Hendry estate, changed into the custom gown and jewels Ben had prepared, and made my own way to the party. When I entered the ballroom, Stella was surrounded by fawning girls. Oh, Stella, that sapphire necklace is gorgeous. Was it a gift from Nathan? I'm so jealous. I heard the Prescotts are announcing an engagement tonight. It has to be you and Nathan, right? The flattery clearly went to her head. Then someone noticed me and the necklace around my neck. Stella, look. Her necklace is exactly the same as yours, but that's a limited edition couture piece. There's only one in the world. Stella's eyes narrowed as she marched toward me. How did you sneak in without an invitation? And why are you wearing a cheap knockoff? Leave before you embarrass the Vance family further. I gave her a bored look. Who said mine's the knockoff? Stella laughed. Mine was a gift for Nathan. It's obviously real. There's only one. Yours must be fake. I smirked. Yours is from Nathan. Mine is from Ben. You tell me which one's real. Before Stella could respond, the crowd erupted. Ben Prescott? No way. The head of the Prescott family He's never had a girlfriend. Stella shot me a disdainful glare. You're a low-class copycat. Get out before you make a bigger fool of yourself. She grabbed my necklace and yanked. It snapped, falling to the floor. She stomped on it, then leaned close and hissed, "Don't think I don't know what you're up to. First you tried to ruin my face. Now you're wearing the same necklace to seduce my boyfriend. I won't let you win. Get out," she screamed, for everyone to hear. I sighed, then slapped her twice. "You're too loud," I muttered. Stella stumbled, tears filling her eyes. Just as she was about to start again, a new voice cut through the air. "What's going on here?" "Nathan Prescott." Stella immediately grabbed his arm, playing the victim. "Nathan, the necklace you gave me, it's fake." And she hit me. "Who would dare?" Nathan began turning toward me, but when our eyes met, his arrogant expression shattered. His voice cracked, rising several octaves in disbelief. "Sis' sister-in-law, what are you doing here?" The entire ballroom froze at Nathan's outburst. Cameras flashed. A murmur spread like wildfire through the crowd. "Sister-in-law? What does that mean?" Someone whispered. "Wait, she's with Ben?" As in Ben Prescott? Dozens of high society eyes turned toward me, their curiosity sharp as knives. I simply tilted my head, meeting Nathan's stunned stare with quiet amusement. "Shouldn't you be greeting me properly, Nathan?" I said, my tone calmed, beating. "After all, your brother did announce our engagement to your parents last week. Didn't he tell you?" Nathan's jaw dropped. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Behind him, Stella's expression curdled from confusion to terror. "You're lying," she shrieked, grabbing his arm desperately. "She's just making things up." "Nathan, don't listen to her." Before he could respond, a deep voice echoed through the hall, commanding instant silence. "She's not lying." Every head turned toward the grand staircase. Ben Prescott descended slowly, his tall frame wrapped in a midnight black tuxedo that probably cost more than the Vance house. The crowd parted instinctively as he walked, his presence radiating authority and power. He stopped beside me, eyes briefly flicking to Stella, before resting on me with an expression that softened just slightly. "Jaylin," he said, his voice smooth and low. "I told you I'd come find you if you were late." He reached for my hand, and when our fingers intertwined, an audible gasp rippled through the crowd. "Ben, what is this?" Nathan demanded, his face. "Reed, you're engaged to her?" "To her?" Ben turned his head slowly toward his brother, his tone polite, but I scolded. "Yes, Nathan. She's my fiancée. You were informed, but as usual, you probably didn't read the memo. Or perhaps you were too busy with your latest entertainment." The last word hung in the air, and several people stifled laughs. Stella's face turned ghostly white. "Bench," started, her voice trembling. "There must be some mistake," Nathan said. Ben raised an eyebrow. He said, "What?" "That he's dating my fiancée's long-lost biological sister." He chuckled, without humor. "Seems my family has a talent for picking disasters." The atmosphere turned electric. Reporters in the crowd started snapping pictures. The sound of camera shutters filling the silence. Stella's attempt at holding tears back failed miserably. Mascara streaked down her face, making her look like a broken porcelain doll. I didn't know," she stammered. "I'm sure you didn't," I replied smoothly. "Just like you didn't know how to fake tears or rip invitations." Mrs. Prescott, Ben's elegant mother, appeared at the edge of the crowd, her diamond necklace glimmering under the chandeliers. "Ben," she said softly, though her gaze on me was sharp and assessing. "So this is her, the Henry girl." "The Henry Aries," Ben corrected, firmly, sliding an arm around my waist. "And soon to be a Prescott," that silenced even the boldest gossipers. The Henry name carried weight. Everyone in that ballroom knew it. Stella's hands trembled as she looked from Nathan to me, realizing just how catastrophically she had misplayed her game. Nathan tried to recover, forcing a laugh. "Come on, Ben, you're not serious. She's just some spoiled brat from uptown. You can't be marrying her. You can't." Ben's glare cut him off mid-sentence. "Watch your mouth." Then he turned to me, his voice softer again. "You shouldn't have come alone. The Van Cess shouldn't have let you walk in here without protection." "Oh, don't worry about them," I said lightly. "They're probably at home, wondering how long it'll take before the tabloids tear into them for raising a fraud." Ben's lips curved into a faint smile, the kind that could make headlines. "Let's make sure of that." He guided me toward the stage at the center of the ballroom where a massive screen displayed the Prescott logo. The event host, visibly nervous, tried to resume. The evening, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Prescott Annual Gala. Tonight we are honored to celebrate. Ben took the microphone from his hand. Tonight we'll celebrate more than just a birthday, he announced, his voice steady and commanding. We'll celebrate the merging of two families, the Prescotts and the Henrys. Allow me to introduce my fiancée, Healing Hendry. A collective gasp filled the room. The flash of cameras intensified. I could practically see Stella's world collapsing behind the crowd. Ethan was there too, hovering awkwardly at the back, his face pale as he tried to understand what was happening. Mr. and Mrs. Vance had arrived just in time to see me standing under the spotlight beside Ben. Chilling? Mrs. Vance whispered, horrified. What are you doing up there? Ben didn't miss a beat. Making it official, he said, pulling me closer as applause began to build from the more opportunistic guests who already saw where the wind was blowing. Mrs. Prescott clapped politely, though her sharp eyes never left me. Well, she said under her breath, just loud enough for me to hear. At least she has presence. After the announcement, the crowd dispersed slightly, buzzing with excitement. Reporters surrounded us for interviews, but Ben shielded me with his arm. No questions tonight, he said firmly. You'll have your press release in the morning. I leaned closer to him, my voice low. You love making scenes, don't you? He smirked. You make them worthwhile. Across the room, the Vances were in chaos. Ethan argued with his parents, his voice cracking from fury. Stella sat motionless, her eyes glassy. Almost pied her. Almost. Later that night, as the guests moved to the dining hall, Ben and I slipped away to the balcony. Below us, the city lights shimmered like spilled gold. You didn't tell me Nathan was involved with her, I said quietly. Ben sighed, his expression darkening. I didn't know until tonight. He's been careless. She probably targeted him on purpose. You're not the only AIS people try to use to climb higher. I glanced down at the crowd. Well, she climbed right into her own grave. Ben chuckled, his arm tightening around my waist. Remind me never to get on your bad side. You already did, I teased. For a moment, everything was silent except for the hum of music inside. Then Ben's tone shifted, quieter, more serious. You know, they'll come after you now, right? The Vances. They'll try to paint you as ungrateful, maybe even file something ridiculous to drag your name through the mud. Let them, I said coldly. The difference between them and me is that I don't need to beg for status. I am status. Ben smiled approvingly. That's my girl. But beneath his warmth there was calculation. I could feel it. The Prescotts weren't known for sentimentality. They made alliances, not fairy tales. I wondered just briefly whether love or power meant more to him. The next morning, the headlines exploded. The Henry Aries returns. Engaged to Ben Prescott. Socialite. Stella Vance exposed for false claims. Vance family under fire after gala. Humiliation. Every major paper ran the story. Photos of Stella's tear-streaked face circulated online with hashtags like #FakeEras and #PrescottScandal. The Vance's phone must have been ringing nonstop. I woke up to find Ben already dressed, reading the newspaper with a smirk. You made front-page news. Love. Good, I said, stretching. Maybe now the Vances will understand who they were dealing with. But Ben's tone turned cautious. Don't underestimate them. People like the Vances don't just disappear quietly. They'll try to find leverage. I arched an eyebrow. They have nothing. He folded the paper, meeting my eyes. You'd be surprised what desperation can make people do. He left for the office soon after, leaving me to my thoughts. I sipped my coffee by the window, scrolling through the online frenzy. Thousands of comments, some cheering for me, others calling me cold, arrogant, calculating. I didn't care. Reputation was just another currency in my world, and I had plenty. By noon, I received a message from an unknown number. We need to talk. It's about Stella. Come to the Vance residence. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. When I arrived, the mansion that once felt so smugly proud now looked drained of life. Mr. Vance sat in the living room, his face gray with exhaustion. Mrs. Vance hovered nearby, wringing her hands. Ethan wasn't in sight. You've humiliated us, Mr. Vance said as soon as he saw me. His voice trembled with suppressed rage. Do you realize what you've done? I took a seat, crossing my legs. I told the truth. If that humiliates you, maybe the problem isn't me. Stella's in the hospital. Mrs. Vance whispered. She tried to. She took pills. Last night. For a fleeting second, I froze. Then I exhaled slowly. I'm not surprised, I said. She's always been dramatic. Mr. Vance slammed his hand against the table. You have no heart. No, I said evenly. I just have boundaries. You wanted a lucky charm to save your reputation. I'm not interested. He glared at me, shaking. If the Prescotts knew the kind of person you really are, they do, I interrupted. And that's why they keep me around. I stood up, brushing imaginary dust from my dress. Enjoy your peace while it lasts. The world's eyes aren't leaving you anytime soon. As I turned to leave, Mrs. Vance spoke softly, almost pleading. Jaylin, whatever happened between us, she is still your sister by blood. I looked over my shoulder. Then I suggest she learns to bleed less. When I stepped outside, the reporters waiting by the gate surged forward shouting questions. Miss Henry, are the rumors true that Stella Vance attempted suicide? After your confrontation, are you and Ben Prescott still engaged? Did you plan the exposure at the gala? I ignored them, slipping into my car. Inside, my phone buzzed again. This time it was, Ben, don't say anything to the press. Come to the Prescott Tower now. The tone was colder than usual. I frowned, but complied. When I arrived, the Prescott Tower's top floor was buzzing with executives. Ben was standing by the window, arms crossed, his usual calm, replaced by something unreadable. You've caused quite a stir, he said without turning around. Isn't that your specialty? I replied. This is different, he said sharply. The board's nervous. They don't like scandals tied to family. Nathan's demanding a formal investigation into what happened last night. Investigation? I laughed. What's there to investigate? Everyone saw it. He finally turned to face me, his eyes hard. It's not about the truth. It's about perception. They want someone to blame, and you're the easiest target. So, you're saying they want me gone? He hesitated. I'm saying I'll handle it, but you need to stay quiet for now. No interviews, no statements, nothing. I nodded slowly. And what about your brother? Ben's expression darkened. Leave Nathan to me. As I left his office, I caught my reflection in the glass, poised, untouchable, and yet, somewhere deep down, something uneasy stirred. For the first time in years, I wasn't sure if I was the one playing the game, or if the Prescotts had just invited me into one I couldn't control, and I had a feeling Stella Vance wasn't finished yet. 3 days passed after the gala, and the chaos only deepened. Stella's supposed suicide attempt had turned into a full-blown media circus. Headlines called her the broken-hearted socialite betrayed by her long-lost sister and the tragic victim of New York's cruel high society. The Vances milked every tear they could squeeze out of the story. I watched the coverage from the Henry estate, lounging on the couch with a cup of coffee. On screen, Mrs. Vance dabbed at her eyes during an interview. She's just a girl, she said, between soft sobs. She didn't deserve this cruelty. She only ever wanted to welcome her sister. The journalist nodded sympathetically. And Miss Hendry, have you spoken to her since the incident? Mrs. Vance shook her head. Keeling hasn't reached out. I suppose she's too busy planning her glamorous wedding to care. I muted the television, smiling faintly. Too busy planning my glamorous wedding, I repeated to myself. At least they got one thing right. Across the room, my phone buzzed. Ben's name flashed on the screen. Morning, I answered casually. His voice was clipped. You need to stay home today. The board meeting's gone messy. Nathan's been stirring things again. I'm not worried about Nathan, I replied, twirling the spoon in my cup. He's too busy hiding from the embarrassment he caused himself. This isn't just about embarrassment, Ben said. He's trying to push a narrative that you manipulated. Me, that you used the Henry family's reputation to trap the Prescotts. I laughed quietly. Trap you? The man who once sent a private jet to pick me up for dinner? Sure, I must be a mastermind. This isn't funny, Jaylin. He snapped. The investors are nervous. We're preparing a statement to the press, clarifying the engagement. My tone cooled. Clarifying or questioning it. Ben hesitated. You know I support you, but this storm has to settle first. Let me handle it. Of course, I said softly. Handle it, Ben. When the call ended, I stared at the dark screen for a long moment. His words sounded careful. Too careful. As if every sentence had been weighed by lawyers before he spoke. That evening, a delivery arrived at the estate. A bouquet of white lilies. Stella's favorite flower with a note attached. Forgiveness heals all wounds. From your loving sister. I crumpled the card and dropped it into the trash. The Lees followed. Forgiveness? That wasn't her language. Someone else was pulling the strings. Later that night, I decided to dig deeper. I called my old friend, Clara Wu, an investigative journalist, who owed me more than one favor. I need everything you can find on the Van Cess, I told her. Finances, loans, business, ties, especially any recent dealings with the Prescott Corporation. She whistled softly through the phone. You're going for the throat this time. Give me 48 hours. Make it 24, I said. They're already trying to rewrite history. 2 days later, Clara called back. You were right, she said. It's a mess. The Van Cess are drowning in debt. Their company mortgaged their house 6 months ago. Guess who bought the debt? Don't tell me. The Prescotts. Nathan. Specifically. He's been funneling money through shell companies to keep them afloat. I felt a chill spread down my spine. So Stella's little romance wasn't accidental. Nathan's been paying for the Van Cess to keep her close. Why? Clara hesitated. My guess to embarrass you. Maybe to sabotage your engagement. Nathan's got a grudge. Shelling. He thinks Ben's been grooming him to fail. I exhaled slowly. The puzzle pieces clicked into place. He's using Stella as bait. Exactly. And if you're not careful, he'll use you as the scapegoat. After the call, I sat in silence, watching the city lights through the window. The Prescotts weren't just rich. They were a dynasty, and dynasties had rules. The Henrys had money, yes, but the Prescotts had legacy, connections, and bloodlines stretching through boardrooms and political halls. And now, I was caught between them. The next morning, Ben called again. His tone was colder than before. We need to meet now. When I arrived at Prescott Tower, he was already pacing in his office, sleeves rolled up, eyes dark with frustration. Nathan leaked documents, he said. Immediately. Emails, private, correspondences, things that make it look like I gave you insider information about our projects before we went public. I froze. He's trying to paint it as corruption. Yes, he's implying you used our relationship to profit from stock movements. The board wants an inquiry. I crossed my arms. And what do you want? He looked up, something flickering behind his eyes. I want this to go away, but if the board believes the story, they'll pressure me to call off the engagement. So you're asking me to take the fall? I set my voice quiet. Don't twist my words. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just reading between the lines the same way I always have. Ben stepped closer, lowering his voice. Keeling, listen to me. This isn't about us. It's about protecting the company. If we play this wrong, we both lose everything. I smiled faintly. Though my heart ached, you'll never lose everything, Ben. You were born untouchable. I'm the one they'll burn first. He didn't answer. That silence told me everything. When I left his office, reporters were already waiting downstairs. Microphones flashed in my face. Miss Hendry, did you trade on insider information? Is it true your relationship with Ben Prescott was a strategic move? Are the Van Cess right that you destroyed their family? I walked past them stone-faced, but the noise followed me like smoke. That night, the Henry estate felt colder than ever. My adoptive parents had gone abroad months ago. The mansion was empty, echoing with a kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing. As I prepared to drink, my phone vibrated again. An unknown number, this time with a video attachment. The preview froze my blood. It was from a security camera feed. Inside the Prescott Tower's lobby, Ben was standing close to Stella. Too close. Her hand brushed his arm, her expression coy, apologetic. The video ended abruptly, but the message below it said, you chose the wrong side. For a moment, my fingers trembled around the glass. Then, I placed it down carefully. The Vances wanted war. Fine, I give them one. The next morning, I visited Stella's hospital. The nurses tried to stop me, but I walked straight in. She was sitting up in bed, pale and fragile, looking, and four attached her arm. Her eyes widened when she saw me. What are you doing here? She whispered. Checking on my dear sister, I said. Sweetly, you look better than the news claimed. I almost expected flowers and candlelight for your grand martyr act. Her lower lip trembled, but there was calculation behind her eyes. I didn't mean for things to get this bad. Nathan just wants to protect me. Protect you, or use you. I leaned closer because right now you're his ticket to revenge against Ben, and you're too naive to see it. That's not true, she said quickly. Nathan loves me. I smiled thinly. Of course he does. That's why he leaked fake emails about his own brother and threw you into the hospital for sympathy. She went silent, her face tightening. I could see the moment Realization began to sink in. I stood up, smoothing my coat. Next time you fake a suicide attempt, make sure you take real pills. It's more convincing. Her eyes flashed with fury. You'll regret this, she hissed. Maybe I said softly, but you'll regret it. First, outside the hospital, the air was cold and sharp. My car was waiting, and I climbed in without looking back. Drive to Prescott Tower, I told the driver, and call Clara. Tell her to release everything. By the time I arrived, it had already begun. Clara's article was live, front-page material, complete with documents and financial trails proving that Nathan Prescott had been paying the Van Cess under the table. For months, the story spread faster than wildfire. Vance family and Prescott heir exposed in blackmail scheme. When I stepped out of the elevator, chaos reigned. Assistants were shouting, phones ringing nonstop. Ben stood in the middle of it all, his expression unreadable. When he saw me, he dismissed everyone with a single wave of his hand. You did this, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. You're welcome. He stared at me for a long moment before exhaling. You could have told me first. I warned you Nathan was dangerous. You told me to stay quiet. A muscle twitched in his jaw, but he nodded slowly. You were right. We stood there in silence for a few seconds, the tension shifting from anger to something heavier. Then he said, softly, you just started a war. Killing. Nathan won't forgive this. Neither will the Van Cess, I said. But they started it. I'm just finishing it. Ben walked toward me, stopping just inches away. What happens when it's over? I met his gaze, my voice steady. Then I decide who's left standing. That night, the Vance's mansion was surrounded by reporters. Nathan had disappeared, leaving the family to face the fallout alone. Mrs. Vance fainted on camera. Mr. Vance refused to answer questions. Stella, however, was nowhere to be found. I watched the live coverage from my penthouse, a glass of wine in hand. The news anchor's voice echoed faintly through the room. Sources say Stella Vance has fled New York following the scandal involving Nathan Prescott. Authorities are investigating whether criminal charges will be filed. I swirled the wine, a small smile touching my lips. Run, little thief, I murmured. Run as far as you can. But even as victory settled around me like perfume, a part of me couldn't shake the unease in Ben's eyes earlier. He hadn't celebrated. He hadn't smiled. Something deeper was brewing behind those calm blue eyes. And for the first time, I began to wonder whether the Van Cess and Nathan had been the true enemies at all, or if I had just exposed myself to the one man powerful enough to destroy me completely. The calm after the storm didn't last. 2 weeks after Nathan and the Vance's downfall hit every news outlet in New York, I woke to find silence. Too much silence. No reporters outside the gate. No messages from Ben. No new articles, just an eerie stillness. Like the city was holding its breath before something broke again. At first, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe once I'd actually won without consequence. But then came the letter, sealed with the Prescott crest hand, delivered by one of Ben's assistants. It wasn't an invitation. It was a summon. Ben wanted me at Prescott Tower at noon for private discussion concerning company and family matters. No affection, no warmth, just business. When I arrived, the boardroom was already full. The Prescott board members sat in a semicircle like judges at a trial. Ben stood by the window, his back to me, expression hidden. Nathan wasn't there. He was reportedly out of the country, but his shadow hung over the room like smoke. Mrs. Prescott sat at the head of the table, her voice calm, but sharp as a scalpel. Miss Henry, she began. I trust you know why you're here. I have some ideas, I replied coolly. Your proactive measures against Nathan and the Van Cess, she said, glancing at the papers before her, caused severe turbulence in our share value. You leaked internal documents, exposed family disputes, and created unnecessary chaos. I tilted my head. Unnecessary chaos that stopped a blackmail scheme targeting your company. That's not the issue, she said, her tone tightening. You acted without authorization, Miss Hendry, without the board's consent, or my son's. My gaze flicked to Ben. He hadn't moved. He was still facing the skyline, hands in his pockets. I thought I was protecting him, I said evenly. By waging war in his name, Mrs. Prescott asked. You may think this is a fairy tale about vengeance and justice, but our world runs on control. And you, she paused, looking straight at me, are not in control. The word stung more than I expected. Finally, Ben turned around. His face was unreadable. The board has decided, he said quietly. You'll Withdraw from public appearances. Temporarily. Withdraw, I repeated. You mean, disappear? He hesitated until the heat dies down. A small laugh escaped me. You think hiding me will make them forget I exist. I just dismantled a scandal that could have destroyed your family, and this is the thanks I get. Ben's expression flickered with something like guilt, but it vanished quickly. This isn't personal. It's strategic. Then, make it personal, I said. Tell me you still believe in me. Tell me this isn't about protecting your name more than protecting me. The silence stretched between us. I already knew the answer. Mrs. Prescott broke it first. You'll leave New York for a while, Miss Henry. Somewhere quiet. The Hamptons, perhaps. I smiled bitterly. You want it gone? Because I remind you that you're perfect. Family has cracks. Ben's eyes softened. Just slightly. I'll visit, he said, voice low, just until things stabilize. No, I said. Don't bother. Without another word, I turned and walked out. The next morning, I packed 2 suitcases, sent the staff home, and drove to the old Henry summer house by the coast. The property hadn't been used in years. Its white walls now faded to gray. I'd be curling around the windows. The ocean wind held like it was laughing at me for the first time in a long while. I was completely alone. I filled my days with silence. Long walks on the beach, coffee gone cold by the window, the steady hum of the waves. But at night, my mind refused to rest. I kept replaying everything. The Vance's smug faces, Stella's crocodile tears, Ben's quiet betrayal. And then one evening, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Ben stood there drenched from the Zen. He looked different, tired, almost human. You weren't answering my calls, he said. Maybe I didn't feel like being handled. He exhaled. Keeling, listen. The board voted to reinstate you as my fiancé publicly. They want stability now. That Nathan's gone. But there's something else you should know. I crossed my arms. This should be good. Nathan's not gone, Ben said quietly. He's missing. The investigators think someone helped him disappear. And the Vance says they've been moving money overseas. I frowned. You think they're coming back? I think they're planning something worse, he said. Before he vanished, Nathan sent an email to one of our lawyers. It said, she'll burn everything he loves, just like she burned me. She meaning me. Ben nodded. He's setting you up for something. Shelling. I don't know what yet, but before he could finish, his phone buzzed. He glanced down and his face palled. Security just called. There's been a breach at Prescott Tower. Someone accessed your personal files, photos, contracts, everything. My blood ran cold. That's impossible. Those are locked in your system. They were, he said grimly. Until now. 2 hours later, we were back at Prescott Tower. The top floor was chaos again. IT staff rushing between terminals, alarms flashing red on multiple screens. One of the tech leads approached Ben, panting. Sir, the intruder used an internal access code. Your brothers. They copied several terabytes of data before we could shut it down. Ben clenched his fists. What did they take? Mainly financials and a private video folder labeled Henry. My stomach twisted. Video folder. The tech lead nodded. Looks like surveillance. Footage from your visit to the Vance house, the hospital, the gala, everything. Someone's been collecting it for weeks. Ben turned to me slowly. Realization dawning. Nathan's been watching you. I forced a breath. Then, he's planning to release something. And he did. The next morning, the internet exploded again. Videos edited with surgical precision, showing me smashing the glass over Stella's head, slapping her at the gala, mocking her at the hospital. Every scene cut just enough to make me look unhinged. The captions were brutal. Jealous sister attempts to ruin family. Violent Aries exposed. Prescott. Fiancé and scandal of the year. Ben's phone never stopped ringing. The board demanded he call off the engagement permanently. Sponsors threatened to withdraw. Even my old allies in the Henry circle distanced themselves. That night, I stood in the penthouse, staring out over the city. You won, I said, quietly. Ben poured a drink, his face drawn. Not yet. I turned to him. Be honest. If I were anyone else, if I weren't convenient for your family, you cut me loose, wouldn't you? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. So I made the choice for him. The next morning before the press conference, I slipped out. I released my own statement. Online, a single paragraph written carefully, deliberately. I am withdrawing from the public eye and from my engagement to Ben Prescott. Truth. Ben's easily in the wrong hands, and I refuse to keep fighting in a game where every player cheats. Within minutes, it went viral. By the time Ben reached my apartment, I was gone. He called, but I didn't answer. I left New York behind, just like they'd once left me. Months passed. I moved to London quietly under my mother's maiden name, investing in startups and companies that didn't care about headlines. I never appeared on camera again, never granted an interview to the world. Chaline Henry had vanished, but sometimes late at night, I'd scroll through news updates. The Prescotts were still thriving. Ben had expanded the company overseas. Nathan remained missing. The Van Cess filed for bankruptcy and sold their mansion. Stella was reportedly in therapy. One evening as I closed my laptop, my phone buzzed. A new message. No name, just one line. I told you I'd visit when things stabilized. There was no signature, but I didn't need one. Outside my London apartment, a black car idled under the rain. The door opened and Ben stepped out. Older now, I shadowed, but still carrying that same dangerous calm. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said softly, "You were right. In the end, none of them mattered. Only you." I studied him for a long moment. "So what are you doing here?" He gave a small, tired smile. "Finishing what we started." I didn't answer. I turned away, walking toward the elevator. The doors began to close, then stopped. His hands slipped through the gap, holding them open. "I never stopped loving you, Chaline," he said, quietly. I met his gaze, the past, flashing like lightning between us. The fights, the scandals, the empire built on lies and power. Finally, I whispered, "That's the problem, Ben. Love was never the issue. Control was." The door slid shut, and for the first time in years, I felt